The Dream 3 podcast, episode 21. My boy Neil is actually out on vacation this weekend, but I had a guest lined up that I could not pass on, especially with somebody of this caliber in the sport of mixed martial arts and sports cards. We had to get right to him. So, without further ado, we have the owner and promoter of Colosseum Combat, an MMA promotion out of Kokomo, Indiana, and he is the owner of Slater Sports Cards and Collectibles in Kokomo, Indiana. I want to welcome Mark Slater to the podcast. Mark, great to see you. Great to have you on, brother.
Hey, it's been a minute since I've seen you. So, yeah, I'm glad to be a part of this.
It has been. And for just a quick little background, I've been going to Mark's shows for well over 10 years now. I even fought on one of his cards. And then we kind of reconnected at a card show, and I was kind of surprised to see you there. And then figuring out that, you're deep into sports cards too. So that's a great connection, especially for a lot of people that, as you said when you reposted the link, like, I can talk to somebody about sports cards now instead of, people looking at me like it's just cardboard.
Right. Oh, dude. And my girlfriend, I got buddies, even lifelong friends that just were never into it like I was. And I'm talking to them, and they're being as nice as they can be, and they're nodding, but I can tell they could care less about this card I got in the mail today. But, so it's always nice when you run into people that you have other common interests with, and then you find out, like you, that, oh, he's into cards too. So it's awesome.
Absolutely. So let's start off with the MMA promotion business. Now, for those of who are listening that don't know your background, first, how did you get into just the sport of mixed martial arts? And then how did you become an owner and a promoter of a promotion?
I was a fan from the very first one. Me and my dad watched it on an illegal cable box. And we watched it, and we were just like, this can't be legal. Like, these guys are like trying to kill each other. We thought we were stumbling onto like a pro wrestling thing, and it wasn't. We were just like, this is nuts, but we were hooked. And we would always go to local shows, and then I'd sponsor fighters with like my other business, and lo and behold, I said that I would fight, and I was like, man, if I train 6 months, I could fight. And if you say that around guys that fight, they'll take you up on that. So I fought myself, had an opportunity to buy Colosseum Combat, and I did, and the rest is history.
That's awesome. And now this is going to be your 57th show coming up this Saturday.
It is. Yeah.
It's going to be Colosseum Combat 57, Terry the Brick House versus Aaron Highball is the main event. It's going to be a great main event. If you know anything about regional or local Indiana MMA, Terry the Brick House, he brings the heat, has a nice win over Melvin Gillard in the last year and a half or so, and Aaron Highball has no problem throwing leather either. So it's going to be a great card top to bottom. The one thing about Mark Slater is he makes sure that card is stacked from the first fight all the way to the main event. So if you're in or around Kokomo, Indiana, you need to make your way up to Colosseum Combat. And just for the nostalgia part, I believe this is going to be the final fight at the Kokomo Event Center.
It is. For a while. We'll see what happens. I mean, it's going to be commercial space for a while. I'm not going to stop doing shows. I just won't be doing them here in my hometown for a minute. Hopefully that changes. Either something else opens up or somebody builds something. But we're not going to slow down. I've already got shows booked for 2022. But yeah, it's sad to leave my hometown. I've kept it here as long as I could, and that's why some of the guys that are fighting on this one, I wanted to bring some of the old school guys back and give them one last go around in that building.
Absolutely. And that card has been in that building for a long time. I can remember even, in high school and early in college when me and my buddies would drive up from Indianapolis and go there. And then when I got to compete for you, it was, I believe, one of two events that were in the Armory where it was not actually in the event center. So at least I can say that I was on the first card that was never inside the actual Kokomo Event Center.
Yeah, we had a few shows there. It was during the time that Ivy Tech had owned the building, and then when the Graves family purchased it, that's when we ended up going back. So the armory has served its purpose, but we're definitely too big to go back there now. And I mean, there's not air conditioning. You're kind of limited on how many shows you can have, and I mean, it worked, but yeah, at this point, there's no way we can really go back. Take a step back to that.
So now let's go into the sports card business. So everybody has a different path on how they got involved with sports cards, either reintroducing themselves later on in life. But where did it first start with you? Like, what is your earliest memories of picking up baseball cards or football cards and kind of figuring that out, that this is something that you really enjoyed?
Um, I mean, my parents bought cards for me even before I was a coherent being. I mean, I woke when I was older. They had bought me cards from my birth and just kind of set them back and whatever. So I found all these cards and I thought they were cool. And then lo and behold, I found a Beckett, and I seen that there was some of this stuff was actually worth something. So like by the time I was like 12 or 13, I'd set up at little card shows, and it was a little side hustle. Well, then yeah, it just from that it kind of grew on me. And then by the time I was 15, 16, playing sports, having other hobbies, finding out about girls and stuff, I sold off a lot of that collection, but still had a few pieces. And then, yeah, years later, I started like everybody does. You start wanting to relive your childhood, and it's like, man, I wish I'd have never sold that card. And was picking up some of that stuff when the market was real soft, like in the early 2000s. And I was like, man, I sold this in '94 for more than I'm paying right now. It just blew my mind how low some of the cards were. So I bought, just was always picking up stuff when I thought, man, surely I'm not the only person that's going to think this is cool again someday. So, and now I've got this store filled with junk.
So, what is kind of your basics? Let's start with personal collection. What is your parameters in your own personal collection? Who do you collect? What sports?
Um, Typically I'm more of a like old baseball. Like you'd see me at the shows, and it was weird because I was one of the younger guys, in my opinion, there, and I was the vintage guy to everybody. I was like, man, yeah. But I just like the old junk. The stuff that I kind of hold near and dear is more like the Negro League collection. I have a pretty good autograph ball card collection of old stuff. But other than that, man, like I like it, but I'll sell just about anything. There's not too
Mhm.
much stuff unless it was given to me as a gift, or I mean, there's some story. I've always just been, I guess, one of those dirty flippers. I mean, if somebody liked it more than me, I would sell it, and then in the hopes
Mhm.
I would find it again, or be able to replace it on down the road. So there's not too many things that I like collect that I just won't come off of. If you came in here, pretty much everything's for sale within a couple items, but
Yeah, absolutely. I think everybody kind of has that. Sometimes people have like one or two things, or people that, and me and Neil have talked about this in earlier podcasts. Like for me, like I love boxing, and I have Muhammad Ali cards for days, and I have an Ali auto, a Frazier auto, um, a Larry Holmes, and a Ken Norton auto, and I'll never get rid of those because that's kind of, I don't care how much I pay for it. It's priceless to me. So
right.
selling stuff like that off is, if there is somebody that might, really, really wants it, and it's more enjoyable to them, but it's got to kind of like outweigh how much I love it. My love for Muhammad Ali, to have his auto that's pre-Parkinson's era where it's fully scripted out, to me, it's it's very rare and hard to find. And that's just, Ali's my guy, and kind of how I based a lot of my life and my training stuff around. And so that to me is my PC that I won't get rid of. But like especially when the market started to take off in 19, uh Hey, if I had a card, I'd flip it. If I could buy it for
Right.
25 cents and sell it for $1, I would.
Right. And like I said, there's items that have been gifted to me. There's stuff like that. A lot of that stuff isn't the monetary, you know what I mean? There isn't necessarily a monetary, it's sentimental. I'm never going to sell it. If somebody asks me, it's not for sale. A whole lot of things I have has like something that I don't necessarily want to part with. I'll put a price out there. 1968 Tom Seaver. Every time I get one, I say I'm never going to sell it. And every time I
Mhm.
put it in a case, because it's one of those cards that catches eyes, I'll try to price it so high that surely this guy isn't going to buy. And they do it every time. Like right now, I do out of all these cards, I don't have a 68 Seaver. And I always want to have one, and I don't. And it's like every time I get one, I always say, I'm going to keep this one. And then right now, I don't have one. So, like, the boxing, like right now, I'm putting together the 51 ringside set, the
Mhm.
tops ringside. So I'm not selling any of those. When I get doubles, I give one to my son. But I think when I finally get it and put it together, I'll probably sell the whole set. You know what I mean? But like
Yeah.
right now, that's something that I'm like just trying to. There's 96 cards. That's not too crazy to me to do. Some of them I got are graded, some aren't. But it's just something like once I finally put that set together, I'll probably sell it all. Kind of like my Negro League stuff. Like if I sell a piece of it, it's because somebody really deserved it. Otherwise, I don't sell it. And I think on down the road, it'll be worth more, even if it's not monetarily, it'll be worth more historically to sell it or get rid of it as a collection. You know what I mean? I think
Yeah.
somebody would appreciate it as like its entirety.
I think that's a great idea because when we were at the National at Chicago this year, there was a couple tables. One guy had the complete 52 tops set, all graded out, including the mantle. So I think that's a great idea of collecting the entire series and then, saving it down the line because as we know, somebody's always looking for the same thing you are and trying to build that set. So if somebody can purchase it as an entire group, it's a great idea looking forward down the line. Now, I know you're a big vintage guy, vintage baseball. You had a ton of vintage football that I loved looking at. Is there any of the new products that kind of catch your eye that you either enjoy looking at, that you enjoy ripping? So, whatever sport it is, but kind of like the newer style products, let's say 2018 to present, is there anything that you really like?
Um, I liked all the newer top stuff, but I don't. This sounds silly, but I'm just not that knowledgeable on it, which I'm obviously learning.
Mhm.
I always joke with everybody. It's like I can't just sell snakes and sparklers just because I like snakes and sparklers. But there's so many variations. I know I'm probably not the only old guy that says this, but like if you look at a 68 tops, they had one card. You know what I mean? So there's a lot less to know and to remember. And now there's like so many variations. And I'm just that guy that's always thinking I'm either gonna like sell a card that's worth $100 for five because I didn't know this one was numbered of 10, or you know what I mean? So I'm slowly starting to catch on to it, but like, yeah, I just started getting into like the newer stuff in the last couple of years, and it's just been me finding it out in the wild, tearing out packs, and like, oh, I recognize this name, kind of, So I've got a case in here, some what I call new shiny baseball, and I think it's pretty good. I mean, it's all raw. Like I'm still that guy. I still haven't really submitted much to get graded, but
Yeah.
I think I got some pretty good stuff that I've been able to pluck out of packs.
No, I totally agree with you, especially because the way I kind of got back into it, my thought was, I had a bunch of 90s cards that, people referred to as the junk wax era. So, but to me, these are the players that I grew up watching and loving. So it's cool to me. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to look up and find these guys' addresses, send them the card with the returns, and hopefully they autograph them. And lo and behold, a lot of them have. But then, like, if you were trying to make a business out of it and you realize that most top tier collectors don't collect stuff like that. And now I have to try to figure out, like you said, these variations, these short prints, these numbered cards, and, you know, what card is worth more than this? I might have it in the dollar box when, like you said, it might be worth $100. So you're absolutely right. This game is not just, you know, rip a card, sell a card. There's a lot of homework and a lot of staying on top of not only sports, but the market itself, because it's ever changing, just like the stock market.
Right, with the newer stuff, and like I said, the older guys, like especially now, a lot of them are gone, and so they're not going to have any scandals anymore. You know what I mean? They're not
Mhm.
going to get hurt and their careers cut short. So like
For
a lot
sure.
of that, that new stuff, obviously it's still speculative, and you don't know if this guy's going to get hurt or be caught in an elevator beating his girlfriend, or you know what I mean? And
Oh yeah.
they can be the greatest player in the world. You've got all this money invested. Andrew Luck. I mean, Andrew Luck. I have a buddy that has an Andrew Luck tattoo on him. You know what I mean? Like he did. I mean, he thought he was going to be the savior of the Colts. Like he's got this huge tattoo, Andrew Luck, and it's like he never materialized. And there's a lot of people that spend a ton of money on having him sign helmets and you know what I mean? Now you can't give this stuff away. I mean, within reason. And it's like a lot of that. It's like that's why I always stuck to the old stuff and now I got to learn some of it. And basketball, I've sold all my basketball collection 2 times, like to one guy. It's like, dude, just take it all. I don't want to, I can't keep up with it all. And this was me going to the shows and stuff. Well, now I've got to have basketball. It's a shop, and you've seen
Mhm.
what I just recently picked up in a collection of totes I got, so I filled up a case really quick of, pretty decent basketball. But it's like, there's so much of it to try to keep up with all the time to where I was all, here, just take all this stuff and get it out of my hair. I can't keep up with all the different stuff. But now I got a little bit more room to stretch out. It's not all hidden in my house and storage units and everywhere else. I mean, the store itself, like counting everything, the big room's about 2,700 square foot. So that's where I can host like a monthly show here. um, and it's right on 931. You're kind of familiar with Kokomo, so it's on the main drag right here where everybody drives by. So this I got a little more room now. I can buy baseball and basketball and the new stuff and have a case for the shiny stuff, and it feels nice to be able to stretch out a little bit and actually be able to look at some of my stuff.
So, kind of getting into your shop, I mean, you're a brand new brick and mortar shop owner for cards. So, kind of what is the thought process about through that? Like, was it more of, well, I could host my own shows here? Are you trying to build a community in northern or north central Indiana? Trying to pull some of those Fort Wayne guys, those Muncie guys. So, kind of take us in depth of the thoughts of you, instead of being kind of like an online seller like myself is, and like a lot of the people that follow us are, but to have a real brick and mortar shop that, it's a hard job to run.
No, I'm older. I'm getting older. I mean, this is like what I consider almost my retirement gig. It also houses the my office for the fights. So it's got multi-purpose building. My daughter has a little storefront in here also, and then it's attached to where I have the after parties. So my landlord's awesome. And I mean, we got parking for days, and this was how I could sell it to my girlfriend, was by telling her like I think that the show would be successful enough. There isn't one really around here. There's a small one in Marion at a fairgrounds, Beech Grove and Patrick's, which I'm going to work with him to where we're not stepping on toes. And then, like you said, you got Fort Wayne, Warsaw has a little show every so often. There isn't anything around here. And if I'm losing my fights, well, then I got to invent some reason for people to come to Kokomo.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
if the fights are going to Lafayette and Maryville, then I'm going to bring a card show to Kokomo. And the shop, my girlfriend wasn't going to let me just have a little shop paying, however much rent sitting in downtown Kokomo. But this made sense because I could do the show to help offset the rent, and it's big enough, and I could have my office here. My dog, what I mean? It once she's
Absolutely.
seen the totality of the building and the way it's set up, she's like, I could see this being successful. You know, I mean, because it's a little bit, yeah, it's a brick and mortar card shop. That's what I want to have here. It's what I'll be doing, hanging out. But I can also go in there and do fight stuff when it's slow. I can also, my daughter will be hanging out with me. That's awesome. So, and the location of it, I think, will be a big advantage.
I think, and to kind of echoing your point, I see a lot of I wouldn't say it's a traditional card shop. Like when I think of card shops, I think of, Indie Ball Exchange or Card Collector 2s. Yours can be a multi-purpose shop where not only, like you said, you can come in, you can buy cards, look at cards, but you have a good opportunity to bring in, let's say, fighters like a Mark Coleman, or I'm sure you have a Rolodex worth of UFC guys to come in and have an autograph session that helps drives that business to Kokomo. So even if the fights aren't there, like you said, there's another reason to come to Kokomo.
Right. And we did that with at the last fights. We had Coleman and Angel Manfredi, and they were there signing both nights. I had that 2-day show, so I was trying to figure out a way to get people there both nights, and it worked out well. And it was, I already had this kind of in the works,
Mhm.
so it was like this would be ideal, you know. And there's some Kokomo guys, there's some indie guys that have made it, you know, even if they're not the biggest stars, they would still love to come here and sign.
Absolutely.
Cliff Livingston, he played with Jordan, you know, played with the Bulls. He's a coach here for the Kokomo Bobcats, like a prospect, semi-pro like type basketball league. But I mean, he would love to come here and sign, promote their team. You know, I mean, the local team. So I mean, there's guys that are right here in this community that I think would even be draws for autographs. That if you brought them in here, then you bring a Mark Coleman or Matt Mitrione, Lytle, one of those guys. So that way everybody's happy. You got somebody from basketball. You got, yeah, I think it would work. And the way that this place, once you get up here and check it out and see the whole layout, I think you'll be like, oh, now I get what you're saying. Like this is, you know, it's a good spot.
It's definitely kind of like, your like my office is my card shop, which what better day job to have than hanging out with something that you enjoy doing? I think, like they say, is if I enjoy doing what I do, I've never worked. And if you're,
Uh,
putting fights together and hanging around sports cards all day, I don't see anything wrong with that.
I'm putting a pool table in. So, and I was like, man, when it's slow, I can go over there and shoot pool. I mean, you know, it's
You
perfect.
already got the TV hung up. We're gonna get the pool table. Slowly but surely
I
building.
gotta
I'm
hide the
sure.
cables, but yeah, you know.
So, what's your thought process in? Because you messaged me about the lot that you obtained. So to continue to make your business thrive and continue bringing products in, are you uh, are you trying to like buy old school lots? Are you trying to get your hands on newer products? A little bit of both. Like, what's your thought process on making sure that your store stays stocked up?
I'm definitely gonna have retail product, like new product here. But like, I just had a guy come and do all the windows with vinyl and stuff, and it says, you know, Slater Sports Cards buy sell trade. I haven't even open yet, and I've had people wheeling in totes of stuff like, "Hey, do you buy cards?" Yeah, you know, and so being where we're at, like I'm literally on the same road as the event center, that main road that runs through town. So, I mean, that's a lot of cars that pass by here every day that's going to see that not only do I sell cards, but I buy cards. So, I'm really excited to see some of the stuff that does come through here. You know what I mean? People clearing out. I know I'll see a lot of 1988 Donruss. I already know, and I'll be as nice as I can when I tell those people there's not a whole lot of value there. But you know, I mean, I don't want to crush anybody's dreams. But I'm also hoping, being right here, and somebody will come in with some 65, you know, tops that are look amazing and that they were their dads and they're just trying to get rid of them. And I'll give them, you know, what I think's a fair price to, you know, here's what they're worth to me. And, you get that now, and you don't have to sell them on eBay or on Marketplace. So
Or somebody that drops off a nice tote full of basketball, and you send me pictures of what you got, and I was like, "Oh my god."
yeah, but dude, I had no idea. Like it was the second day before I hit like the LeBron and all those rookies and those, because all the other stuff was all 90s.
Mhm.
So everything was 90s. So I hit all those Jordans. I mean, there's a ton of there's a ton of stuff, but it was a lot of $5 cards, $3 cards. Once I hit the Kobe rookies, then you got into the LeBron, the Carmelo, the Dwayne Wade.
Dwayne Wade's
That's
like,
when, yeah, it was like, I did good.
yeah.
But that's I've been doing that a long time, and
Mhm.
I try to pick out what I think's a handful of stuff to where I'm gonna get that out of this tote, and the rest I am taking a gamble on, because nobody's gonna sit here while I go 12 hours going through this stuff. And they were gonna take it to the dump. They literally were like, "Yeah, we'll probably just take it to the dump." And I was like, "No." And I found enough to where I was like, "Hey, I'll offer you this much." So they were more than happy to take it. And then 12 hours later, after digging, it's like, oh my gosh, look, there it is. There's the
Yeah.
good one.
I think it's one of those things, like you said, I might have to take a gamble if I see enough good. My thought process is, hey, if I see, a couple that are good, the rest can be 25 cent, 50 cent, dollar box cards. Even if it's, just a handful of $5 cards, you know, after a while, I'm going to make my money back doing that. And that's kind of somebody's process of going, building up that way, where, a lot of the newer style card guys are trying to do the breaker route, where they're online, breaking the cards. I know guys who are younger than me who are spending $60,000 a month and buying boxes of cards to break online. And I went down that road. Me and Neil both went down that breaker route. And, to me, it sitting on the internet waiting for somebody to buy a box of cards. I would much rather just want to open the boxes. Like, I don't have the patience or I I see a box of cards and I want to open it.
I either open it or I can just sit it back forever. It's but I've never been. I'm old school guy. Like, I don't know. I didn't want to be that guy to let me go and rampage all the targets and then upcharge. You know what I mean? Like, just wasn't. I just wasn't. It wasn't my thing. Like, to me, it wasn't ever going to be sustainable. And then, like, the other day when I went to Walmart and all the shelves are stocked, it's like, all right, now that's kind of cool. Now people aren't going to be killing each other at Target. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh yeah.
that was my only thing. Once it got to that point, like, where you could, like, it's like, man, if I find it, I'm just going to buy it in the wild and open it just to piss everybody off and
Yeah.
hope I hit a bunch of good stuff so I can show everybody. And so that's what I did. It was
Agreed.
just
And
the stuff.
yeah, it was weird that market, and I know exactly what you're talking about. That market spiked so hard that, everybody was on this retail craze of just, you'd get to Walmart at 5 o'clock in the morning. Hopefully it's restocked, and try to buy everything and then upcharge it 70, 80%. And, it worked for about a year, and then people are getting tired of it. But that's how the market works. I mean, it corrects itself over time. And I think
Right.
we finally got our way out of that.
Right. I mean, I'm old enough. I'm like a dad. I remember Zuzu Pets. And that's what I kept calling it. Like, my daughter had to have Zuzu Pets one year, and her birthday was in October. Christmas is in December. You couldn't buy them anywhere, so you had to pay eBay prices. And then after December, man, you could get them at Walgreens for like $5. But Dad had to spend all this crazy, you know what I mean? And that's all it reminded me of. So it pissed me off from the get go, because I'm like, this is like Cabbage Patch Kids and Zuzu babies. Like, these guys are making it, you know what I mean? So I just decided I wasn't going to contribute. I wouldn't.
Mhm.
If I found some in the wild, I would buy them, but I would open every single pack like a little kid. And
Oh
that's
yeah.
what I did. So,
Oh yeah. When 1920 basketball was the big thing, everybody's chasing Zion and Ja. I found brand new stocked Walmart in Brownsburg. I bought everything and I opened every single pack. Now looking back at it, if I still had those boxes, it's like 40 grand worth of stuff, but I opened every single pack and I still got tons of the cards in the closet.
My very, very first hustle ever was I'd go to Cincinnati as a kid and I'd stay with my family. My parents would give me a bunch of money. My aunt and uncle, my cousins, they wouldn't let me spend any of it. So right before I leave, they'd ask me what I'd want to do. I'd go to the card shop in Cincinnati. I could buy old packs. I'd bring them back to Indiana and I would set up at a card show and I'd sell like 85 tops packs and like 87, 88, 89. And I would charge, I was getting them 33 cents a pack and buying cases of them, bringing them back, selling them $1 a pack, because by then you had the Mark McGuire Olympic card, you had the Roger Clemens. So it was like a lottery. And I'd put, I mean, I was a kid, I was like 13, and I'd write the Beckett price on all those like hot rookies and Kirby Puckett, you know, and put it by that pack. And I'd set up these shows and guys would just come and buy those packs all day long at $1 a pack. And then I'd pull another box out and I'd sit it. And I came home and I had all this money. My parents thought I was like selling drugs or robbing people. They didn't know what the hell was going on. I was like, no, those are those baseball cards I've had sitting in that box for a year and a half. They're like, you're nuts, but good on you. You know what I mean? Like, but I did. I mean, it was like, no, I'll just hold on to these, see what, and it worked. And that was my first little side hustle into cards was like, and then I could buy old stuff as a little kid. So that's how I got my 62 Maris and my 65 Koufax was by selling, you know, a couple-year-old wax packs to guys at shows for $1 a pack after I bought them in Cincinnati for 33 cents the summer before. And that was what started it all. I guess that's what made me a shitball person. I seen money in it at a very young age, and I'm like, this is, you know what I mean? Like, this is awesome. So,
I think, and you see, especially at card shows nowadays, you see kids, 7, 8, 9 years old who come in trying to hustle some cards. You know, I did a deal with one kid who, hey, will you buy this for me? I was like, what do you want for it? 20 bucks. All right, sure, I'll buy it from you. I just bought it for $5 over there. And I'll be like, you know what? I respect the hustle, my man.
right, right,
I'm the same way. I respect it.
yeah. But that's what got me like really hooked on it as a kid. And then when I was like 15, I sold a bunch of it and I bought DJing equipment. And then I DJ'd I swear, and then I DJ'd through high school. And that was my, you know, how I made money. And then later on, when I got older and I was working at Chrysler, I'd go to card shows. It was like in the early 2000s, 2003, 4, where I mean, I was going and buying stuff I'd sold in the 90s for like $100 and buying old vintage for like $24. I can remember the 68 Seaver. I'd bought one back for like $28 at a show, and I could not believe, you know what I mean, how low the market had, even on old vintage. Like it,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
so I every now and again I'd go to a show with a buddy and just buy some stuff and hide it back, and then it became this. Like it kind of overtook everything. So
So, especially with your old vintage, and I know you're just now kind of jumping back into the game. Do you have any thoughts on any of the vintage cards that you have that you think you would want to grade?
um no, because I can't see very well. Like,
Ah,
and so stuff that I think would be awesome, I'm afraid I'd send it in and be so disappointed I'd want to kill somebody. So I have a buddy that has like one of those, like, I mean, it's essentially like a microscope that they look at like they have at PSA.
mhm.
He's way into it. So if there was something that I thought maybe, but I'm more of the guy that like, if you do that, good on you. You know what I mean? Because I've already made my money on it. So if somebody else wants to buy it from me and think that they really got over on me and they they submit it, they pay for it, um, you know, and they turn out much better than I did, then that's great. Like, but yeah, I just I'm more of just the old junk raw. I've got some stuff that's slabbed, as you kids call it, but it's stuff that I acquired already like that. I mean, I
Mhm,
haven't really
mhm.
submitted stuff. So
Well, I think, besides the number evaluation for, like, let's say a PSA or a BGS card, um, I personally, especially if it's a card I like, even if I go to a cheaper grading company just to get it slabbed and keep it protected, I enjoy doing that. Like, I was able to pick up at a local uh, flea market this nice 54 Hank Aaron and this Bob Clemente, which, they're OC, the backs are ripped off and stuff like that. But I'm going to send them to SGC because for $30, I don't care if they get a one. But
right,
now
and
the
for third, right,
they're
and that's a totally different scenario too. Like there's some stuff in here that I have buddies of mine that keep insisting I need to submit. You know what I mean? And even some of that basketball, they're like, "No, dude, submit some." And well, I think you even said I ought to submit some of it. But I had when I was this would have been mid 2000s, probably early 2000s. I went to a show. I don't remember. It was one of the companies that isn't around anymore, but they were bought up. Like it was a reputable one. But me and my buddy took some stuff there. In my opinion, this stuff was going to come back at 10 because I'd never messed with it since I bought it. Well, like you just said, I didn't really take in consideration the surface and the off center and whatever. In my mind, it's mint because it came from the factory.
yeah.
And so the stuff I submitted, I was so disappointed in. My buddy found out his like Holy Grail card that he had like treasured was fake. It was a Babe Ruth. It came back counterfeit. And back then, this was years and years ago, but he had traded two Jordan rookies. Like he had
Oh,
literally traded two real Jordan rookies way back in the day, not currently, what I mean, but way, way back in the day for this. And this was like his, holy grail. So he took it there to get it graded and it came back counterfeit. The stuff I submitted came back as like eights and 8.5s. I was like, I'll never do it again. And I have a couple of times, but like I said, it just I always feel like I'm disappointed in it. And now I think that some of the stuff look better to where I think I could have done better off selling it raw and somebody taking a chance, either just wanting it as a collector or they think that it's worth submitting. You know what I mean? But
mhm.
I guess I'm just not that knowledgeable on what a Gem Mint 10 looks like. So,
No, but I think that's a great point because, before the market got super crazy hot again and PSA cards were $15 to grade instead of 100, we were sending in everything, hoping we get tens, 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 tens. Now, let's say 2 years removed now, and I feel like I'm a little
so
bit.
you were the guys that caused all this.
Whew. No, I've seen some cards that got sent in there that I'm thinking those are the people that caused all this. At least my stuff was current, not, Cabbage Patch Kids of 1940 something. But I think the way I look at things now and a good motto that I have is buy the card for the card, not for the grade. So if it's a card that I really want, I could care less what the PSA or whatever grade it is. I just want to have that card in my collection. I think a good uh, I have a like a Peyton Manning like gold, one of his rookie years. I think it's like a six or a five. I'm not paying $3,500 for a 10, but $50 for a five. Yeah, I'm in. It's a Peyton rookie. Like, it's something that I cherish that I'm close to, but something that I could care less if I sell it for more. It's just something nice to have.
Right. And I've gotten stuff like it's like a 2017 Giannis, and but it came with a Johnny Bench that was like a 2.5 graded. But it made sense because the guy was going to give me a deal if I bought multiple things, and it's like somebody's going to want that Giannis card. You know what I mean? And it's PSA graded. It's a 9. It's a numbered card of like 250. It's not a high end card by any means, but it makes it easier to sell with it already being PSA graded. You know what I mean? Somebody comes in here to the shop. Yeah.
Mhm.
So I shouldn't say I don't have anything, any graded stuff. I have quite a bit here, but it wasn't me that personally submitted it. I bought it after it was already all prettied up and slabbed, and somebody wanted to sell some stuff. So
Now, especially being a MMA promoter and the UFC signing an exclusive deal with Panini, have you got a chance to open very much, Panini Prism or Select or even Immaculate just came out?
I don't know what it was that I opened. I think it was the cheaper one, the Chronicles or
Oh, the
something.
Chronicles?
Yeah. But it was still fun. I mean,
Oh,
I
yeah.
still hit some pretty cool stuff in it. And it's one of those that, like, kind of like you, I wasn't necessarily doing it for the value. I was joking with my girlfriend. I was like, oh, I need stock. I need some inventory at the shop. Somebody's going to want a UFC card. I didn't have a whole lot. But so I was tearing it. And like, even them Chronicles, like, they were neat looking cards. And for not necessarily doing it for the value, or I haven't really looked any up, but there was still some pretty neat cards in there that I thought, like, heck, those are even in a dollar bin, like, there's some neat looking cards.
Absolutely. And it's something that I think Panini especially is putting all their chips in to the UFC for the next couple years because Panini's going to lose the rights to the NFL, the MLB, and who else? The NBA. So, and I said this a couple months ago that they're going to find a sport or two where they're going to put all their chips in, and I think the UFC signing this deal not only is it great for card collectors, but it's also great for the MMA market and people who've wanted to, chase let's say a John Jones or an Adesanya card or something like that. Like I've wanted that in boxing for so long, but because there's so many promoters and this and that, and nobody can set a deal together to get, a set of, you know, good boxing cards. I mean, there's some leaf sets here or there, but nothing like a full, complete, autograph set. But I think this is a great for MMA fans and UFC fans. I mean, I have a Amanda Nunes card that I'm banking on she wins next weekend. That I'll turn and flip that one. I'm not even gonna lie on that.
Right, and but that's what I like. I mean, that's the stuff I like to do, is like open stuff, get it, and then, I mean, I'm a kid at heart. Like, I open that stuff and, like, oh man, I get excited. Like when you do hit, like you just said, Amanda Nunes, you're like, oh sweet. But yeah, I'll sell it in a heartbeat too. You know what I mean? Like, if she wins and that card goes through the roof, you got it out of a pack, or whatever, like, or however you acquire it. It's like, yeah, that's the part of it. That's the excitement, like finding stuff in a tote. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
I was jumping around here like a kid, like my knee didn't even hurt. I was running around here like, if anybody would have seen me, it'd have been like, but that's the part of it, that chase of like finding something cool, hitting something cool, having somebody, and then collecting them, and then watching that card like, oh my gosh, I bought this when it was $1. Now it's worth, whatever. I mean, that's not the only reason why I collect, but that's the excitement in it for me, is like that.
Absolutely. And like I can think of like when I was at the Nationals, I kept walking by this guy who had a tote full of John Jones autographed UFC gloves, and I kept looking at it. He's like, it was like 50 bucks for two gloves. And I was like, oh, it's worth it. And then I just like walk back and walk around. I was like, yeah, I gotta get it. I gotta get it. So it was totally worth it. Now let's we've talked about cards and a little bit on your collectibles, and I see a lot of baseballs and stuff in the background. What are you thinking of sports collectibles? Are you thinking about doing just a variety of everything, or do you have a set that you kind of want to go from? Maybe it's baseballs to baseball bats or footballs, boxing gloves.
Pretty much all of it. I mean, I've had like some game worn shoes signed. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Gloves, the Mark Coleman dolls. I think he's probably seen those videos where I went and had him sign some of the numbered Hall of Fame dolls and stuff. Like over here's like even some NASCAR cars that I've somehow acquired, that are signed. So I have a little bit of everything. I had some people coming in talking about marbles. Like what? And they're like, "Oh, these collectible marbles." And I was like, "Are you talking about like the Kokomo marbles that were made here in Kokomo?" Like, yeah. I was like, "Well, I've got some of those." And it blew their mind that but it's like some of it's like close to home, like anything kind of here that I think somebody might want to stumble in and find. I've kind of got it. A lot of it's cards, a lot of it's autographs. Some of it's just 8x10s, hand collected stuff. A lot of it's certified. I've got some bats, just pretty much everything. I mean, most of it is sports related, but like I said, if it's got a collectible thing and if there's, something that a little meat on the bone that I think that I could buy and somebody will think it's cooler than I did, yeah, I'm open to buy about anything.
I mean, we were like that when the Pokemon craze started coming back. I was like, man, I haven't thought or even talked about Pokemon in like 20 years. And now here I am at 1 o'clock in the morning doing my research on everything that's happened over the last year with Pokemon and buying back into it.
There's a couple, I call them kids, but they are kind of. I doubt either one of them's 18, but they set up at that Beach Grove show, and they always have like a lot of really good cards. They started from selling off their Pokemon collection. Like their dad, I got to talking with him. Is weird. Like he seen my shirt or something, started talking about fights, and he works with Pat McPherson. So, he's a cop. We got to talking, and he's like, "Yeah, my boys, I drop them off and just kind of keep an eye on them throughout the show." But he said that I forget. I mean, it was like thousands and thousands of dollars that they had in Pokemon that he thought was just garbage. You know what I mean? And then when that market took off, they started digging it out, sold off a bunch of it, bought a bunch of stuff, sent it off to get graded, like sports stuff. But that's how they started the stuff that they bring to the show was selling off their Pokemon. I was like, dude, that's awesome. Like now I got to keep an eye out for Pokemon. Yeah.
It's crazy how the market turns and like we talked about earlier, like how not you can't just like show up and think that you're gonna sell cards. Like you gotta kind of know where the market's pointed, what's hot, what's not, whether it be Pokemon or the garbage pail kids or Yu-Gi-Oh cards, even though it's not, one of the big three sports. Heck, I even started having to get into soccer this year because soccer was so crazy expensive and buying into that.
Yeah. And that, like some of it, like you see them little round disc, the crane disc that I always, like that was something too that I thought once I seen it, I was like, other people are going to think these are cool. You know what I mean? But there's so many of those weird oddball sets, the weird oddball things that people were supposed to get rid of, throw away. And if you find out that like one, it's collectible, two, you find people that collect it, there's so much stuff out there, like the 62 post hand cuts, the baseball cards.
Mhm.
People would put them in junk stores, antique stores. I'd find them. Well, then I met a guy at the Beach Grove show that's what he PCs, and he dropped knowledge on me, to let me know that like, yeah, some of the lesser named guys are the ones that are most valuable because nobody kept them. You know what I mean? And they were on fewer boxes than Mickey Mantle. So yeah, Mickey Mantle's worth a bunch of money, but Jerry Lemke, he's number. And so once you like start finding out all the different collectible stuff, you don't have to know everything. You just got to know the guy that knows everything about that stuff. And Scott, the guy that sells the wrestling and all the stuff at Beach Grove, I found stuff that I didn't know about. So I call Scott, hey, I found these wrestling cards. Are they worth anything at all? Yes, buy every one of those. I'll give you $5 a pack for them. I'm like, really? I was like, I thought they were junk, and he's like, no, buy that. Buy every one of those. So then I'm driving to Shelbyville and selling him, So it's like a lot of that stuff, like the stuff that I don't know about and I'm ignorant on, I'm at least smart enough to say I'm ignorant on that subject. So I'll find the guys that know that, and if something comes in here and it looks different, and if I don't know about it, I know the guy that does, and I think that's one thing that's been beneficial to me, is to where I'll admit when I don't know something, but I'll usually know a guy that does. And some of that stuff is making a huge comeback now. The odd collectibles, oddball stuff's what I call it, that everybody threw away. It wasn't meant to be kept. So now guys want it.
So have you got to the point yet? Because once people figure out, I say people in like the normal everyday life, when they figure out that you're into sports cards, how many people go, "Hey man, I got this. Would you mind looking over my stuff and kind of tell me if it's worth anything?" Because people come by to the gym and drop me off boxes and boxes of stuff, and just like, sure, man, I'll go through it and let you know if it's worth a dollar or two.
Right. I had a guy, he's actually getting ready to fight this Saturday. He dropped off some stuff. And he's like, and I was honest with him. I even looked him up on Beckett, so he knew what the Beckett, that little middle price on Beckett on the app where it says this is kind of what they go for. And I try to base it on that lower end with people and tell them, like, this is kind of what they go for. This is what it's worth if you want to try selling it on Marketplace or on Facebook. But this is what it's worth to me, and I'll buy all of it. And you even take the junk, without cherry
Yeah.
picking it and making you go home with this junk, and you know how it is a lot of times, without hurting people's feelings, it's junk. And I try to be as nice as I can when I tell them that it was overproduced and that was the era where, and I always try to find a couple cards worth a few dollars, so you're not, crushing all their dreams. But like, it happens a lot. But then I get stuff like what happened the other day where it's like, just give me whatever for these totes, and they just are wanting to get rid of it because they're cleaning out a garage, and they would take pretty much anything, and
Mhm. Mhm.
that's the good thing about being in this town and everybody knows what I do, is I've had a lot of those where it's like I've tried to give them money and they're like, nope, just take it, just get it out of here, we're just cleaning out the garage. I was like, well, there's probably some stuff in here worth money. Nope, just take it. Okay. And then you get home,
Sure.
like, oh, cool. Ken Griffey
Yeah.
Jr. rookie. That's awesome. I mean, that's a good start. So I try to be fair with people, but then you've probably been there too, where people are just like, no, I'm just happy to get rid of it. Just take it. And okay, I will. I'll
Yeah.
hopefully find some treasure.
I had somebody come to the gym and say, "Well, hey, me and my son has these baseball cards, and he wants you to see if any of them are worth any money." I said, "Sure, bring them over." Well, he comes to the gym, and the truck bed is filled to the top with boxes, and I'm trying to load these in my car, and there's at least 50 boxes worth of stuff, and now I have them scattered all over my house, and my wife is all pissed off about it. And I'm just going through each one of these cards like junk, junk, junk. Well, this one might be worth some. I'll look up this one later, and just like it's hours and hours. But to me, that's so addictive and fun that I just love the rush of like going through a collection and be like, it's a Dwayne Wade rookie. Damn, that's maybe I can make an offer on that or something like
Uh,
that. Tell them something like that. So to me, that's the rush I get when somebody asks me to go through their collection. I'm like, yeah, you might have a banger, or it might be the junk wax era product.
and I have a lot, like I have guys that are pickers too that come up here, and they're knowledgeable. You know what I mean? Like they kind of
Mhm.
know, but they also know they don't want to set up an eBay store. They don't want to mess with it. They don't want to ship it. They're going somewhere getting this stuff cheap enough to where they'll sell it to me by the tote. And they're smart enough to put enough good stuff on top. But dude, I've pulled like Pistol Pete Maravich rookie cards, the tall boy. I pulled that out of totes. You know
Wow.
what I mean? Derek Jeter, the foil rookie card. I got that out of the same tote.
Wow.
So I mean, that's the high. Is like, knowing there's some good stuff in there, because there's always a little sprinkled, but then, just being like, oh my gosh, like I've had them where guys have called me and it's 1962 Hank Aaron and a 1962 Willie Mays along with a bunch of others, and is in a Tupperware. And you know that like they didn't collect these for money, you know, and I'm like trying to offer them anything just so I can get them out of that Tupperware, you know what I mean? Because they were
Yeah.
no top loaders, no penny sleeve, just a bunch of like $100 cards, $200 cards in a Tupperware, no lid on it, and they're sending me pictures of this Tupperware and then moving it to the next card. I was just like, oh, I'll give you anything under the sun, pretty much, just to get them out of your hands before you destroy those cards. But like, so now I'm at a point where it's like that, like people actively hunt junk that I might like, and that's a
Mhm.
good place to be.
All right. Well, a couple more questions before we wrap it up. The first question is, if there was one card that you could have, what card would you want? Whether it be PC or to resell. Like, what is the card that you would love to have in your collection?
I would love to have I have a Satchel Page, but it was trimmed. It's authentic. It's real. It was. I knew it was trimmed when I purchased it. The guy knew it was trimmed when he sold it to me. The transaction was on the up and up, but I want a good one. And like I
Mhm.
bought that one because of, that's the one I could afford, and so I would love to replace that one with like, it doesn't have to be mint, just a good one that I know wasn't altered to make it look good. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Because somebody
Mhm.
cut a little probably off the top and bottom. It's the same width. It's just, so I think they thought it'd be, oh, we can sharpen these corners and, host somebody. But like I said, I bought it knowing it was that way. The guy that sold it to me knew it had been trimmed. So I wasn't burnt on the card. But like I said, I wouldn't mind replacing that one with just a really good one.
And then finally, who would be your athlete of choice if you were building a PC around? What is the one, or who is the one athlete from any sport or any form of anything would you love to just build a PC around one person?
You'd like it doesn't have to be because of monetary, right? Just
Correct.
because of like,
Just because you love it. Because like I build a PC around uh Chris Jones because he's my one of my best friends from high school, and he has a select and national treasure cards. And even though I spend thousands and thousands of dollars on cards that are worth absolutely nothing, he's my brother and I love him. So I
uh,
just buy those cards of his.
right. And I have some of like that, but like if it's like like Bo Jackson would be somebody who like I always have more Bo Jackson shit that I need. Mark McGuire too, but Bo Jackson, I just always looked up to him as a kid. You know what I mean? I was young enough to watch. I was a kid when he was playing. So like Bo Jackson is just, and he left due to injury, not because of some crazy scandal. He didn't have any huge steroid scandals. He just got hurt, career ending. So Bo Jackson, somebody that like, and now his stuff is starting to go up. You know what I mean? But like that's somebody that like I always at least have more of his junk than anybody else's, just because if I see it, it's always cheap, and I always just buy up as much Bo Jackson junk as I can.
Absolutely. That's a great PC. I love Bo Jackson cards, whether it be, the super rookie from Tops, even the newer stuff. His autograph is awesome, whether it's football or baseball. Bo Jackson is very collectible. There's a huge market for him, and he's one of the great, and I don't even want to say underrated because of how athletic the man was, but
It
he's an
was a short-lived career.
he's an underrated buy. And the funny part is, so in college, my backup at Indiana State, the linebacker right behind me, his dad is the one that tackled Bo Jackson that hurt his hip. And I actually have a couple cards signed by him. So
Yeah,
uh
that's a crazy claim to fame. You know what I mean? I'm the guy that ended Bo Jackson's career.
it's just
But it
like
was like more of like Bo Jackson ended his career just by being so strong he like ran out of his own hip. I mean,
Mhm.
essentially like it was the tackle, but it was also like his own strength like, I mean, the muscle, he was
Just
just like a
exploding
freak of,
through it.
yeah.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
he's somebody that just like as a kid, like I can remember when that happened, like I'm not gonna say I cried, but I can remember being upset, like when that happened, like when
yeah,
I knew that like he wasn't gonna come back from that, because like when he first got hit, you didn't know, you know what I mean, but
mhm,
then you knew pretty quick that like, yeah, this dude's probably never gonna be the same athlete again after that. Like, dude, I can remember being like kind of devastated because it was kind of like a Walter Payton thing. Like he didn't have a huge career to like, but he was great. I mean,
yeah.
even some of like, the amount of yards he put up and stuff, like for the amount of years that he played, that's pretty phenomenal.
Yeah, well, amazing player, one that, everybody wishes had a longer career. You just felt like you wanted to see more, like you couldn't have enough.
Right.
So, Mark, thanks again for joining us, being on the podcast, spending an hour with us. If you would, please take the time to let people know where they can find your card shop, where they can find you on social media, and where they can watch the fights this weekend.
Yeah. The Colosseum Combat for the fights. It's, that's our call letters on everything, Instagram, Facebook. And then the card shop, easy enough, is Slater Sports Cards and Collectibles. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and then we're located at the brick and mortar shop. I'm just happy to say that, what I mean, to have one. But it's at 150 South Reed Road in Kokomo, and it's Suite A. It's right next door to the Mose River Room. So you can go over there and get some good food, some jambalaya, have a drink, come over here, get some ball cards. It's like a good setup.
Cool. Well, brother, I appreciate you coming on. I hope to see you at the fights next weekend. And then I hope to come up and stop by the card shop and bring you a gift or two for
Oh,
just
dude,
just
you
to
ain't got
have
to
it.
do that. But yeah, you're always more than welcome, man, at the fights and up here.
All right, brother. Hopefully I see you next weekend. I appreciate it again.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. Well, another great thank you, Mark Slater, for that being on this podcast. A great time. If you're in the Kokomo area, if you love mixed martial arts, Mark Slater puts on some of the greatest fights in Indiana. So you got to go check him out. My buddy Caleb Kruger. When are you fighting again, Caleb? That is absolutely probably never, but I do have 6 guys fighting February 12th. Down in Sullivan, Indiana, that I am coaching. I am not going to fight again. I doubt my wife will let me. But Mark Slater, great promoter, great dude. Uh, Go check out his Facebook page, Slater Sports Cards and Collectibles. Follow him on Instagram, Slater Sports Cards and Collectibles, and Colosseum Combat if you want to see some great fights. Go up there, see it, do it. Mark's a great dude. Got to thank our sponsors for allowing us to keep doing this podcast. Slab Savers, protectyourslab.com. Use code DREAM3 to get 10% off your order. Go to Graded Card Solutions, gradedship.com. Use DREAM15 to get 15% off your order because when you're shipping cards, we never trust the UPS or the USPS or the United States Postal Service because they will break your cards and then you'll be paying somebody a refund. You don't want to do that. And if you want to sell your slabbed or raw cards, go to prospect.cards. That's www.prospect.cards. If you use referral code DREAM3, you're going to get 0% seller's fee for 2 months. 0. eBay, it's 12 or 13. You're paying a lot. You're paying really a lot. And even after that 2 months, so when your 0% seller's fee is over, it's only like 2 or 3%. That's great. Use that. We don't want to get stuck with eBay prices. You don't want to be buying a car that you think is, you know, $20 and then you're paying 45 because you got to add the seller fees and tax on top of it. So go to prospect.cards. That's www.prospect.cards. Yes, that is a real website. But yeah, thanks to Graded Ship. Thanks to Slab Savers. Also, Nation Golf. If you love classic golf attire, visit Nation Golf Company, nationgolfco.com. Adam Hawk, Ryan Engel, great company out of San Clemente, California. A lot of great polos, hats, good golf stuff. Get ready for the golf season next year. If you're in Indiana like me, you got to wait a couple months. But Until next time, who knows? I think Neil will be back next weekend. He might be still on vacation. If I can get a guest, we will have one. If not, we might take a week off. But stay informed with us. Remember, you can follow me at Showtime Sports Cards on Instagram. You can follow the Dream 3 Podcast on Facebook, the Dream 3 Podcast on YouTube, the Dream 3 Podcast on Spotify. Download it. We see the numbers. The numbers keep going up, and I thank everybody for downloading the Spotify downloads of the podcast and listening. Thank you. We work really hard at it. It's just me and Neil out here grinding, doing this. We're not getting paid or anything like that. We're just, out there trying to make the card community and card hobby a better place. So until next time, everybody, thank you, and we will see you later. Peace.